afternoon, brothers and sisters, and yes, I've been pondering, in what's gone on. Let me share again. I've shared this once. I got cheeky because I wanted to ask the Lord a date, and Curry Blake from John G. Lake Ministries, I was watching one of his videos, and he said his most effective time, brainwave, to contact God is in the deep depths of his sleep. So in a nutshell, what he did and does his quiet time and inquires for the Lord before he goes to sleep. Then his quiet time in the morning, has a quiet time in the morning, and asks for the answer, and he gets it a lot. So I did this, and I was cheeky. I did a couple of things before this, and they were answered. But this, I said, well, I'm getting a certain amount of success here. I'm going to ask the Lord the date, and I did. And I've told everybody now. I was driving my son to school, and Rosh Hashanah was going through my head, right? To the point I was nearly singing it, you know what I mean? It was just going and going and going, all the way there and all the way back. It's only a 7-minute drive each way. And I thought, this is the answer. Honestly thought, this is the answer, and wrote it down, because I didn't know what that feast was or what it was. I hadn't looked into it. So I wrote it down, Rosh Hashanah. Okay, and then I went up and searched the date and what the festival was and did all that. So I've had that fixed, Rosh Hashanah, and I shared it with a few people, half a dozen people, for want of setting a date, and left it at that. Now, both Brenda and George have found out that Rosh Hashanah is moved to the 27th, 28th of September. Okay, now there's another twist. I asked him the date, and I can't remember whether I asked him what was the rapture date. But we got Rosh Hashanah. Now, when that passed, I hit the floor. I thought, no, because that, honestly, as God be my witness, that was the most significant thing that ever happened to me visually in a vision or in a prophecy or whatever you call it, ever. And it was continued that week, actually. There was other things that happened that were answered. And I had this run of that happening. But it came and passed, didn't it? And I thought, well, who am I hearing? I felt all sorts. But anyway, this short video of George's 6-minute video, we've showed Brenda, and now we show George, and I'm clinging to it. I get a sincere feeling these guys are right. Watch this.
Hi, this is George from The Return of the King. I've entitled this presentation 2020 Rapture Ultra High Watch Week, starting on September 16th through the 20th. On the Essene calendar, the Feast of Trumpets is set up for the 16th, and it makes it very interesting considering that on the 15th, the peace accord, which we believe is the peace accord that's being spoken about in the book of Daniel, is going to be signed on the 15th of September, the day before. So that's really, really interesting, and so I want to kind of put that in, and you'll see what's going to happen there. Next, I want to look at there's so many things going on in the planet right now that Joel 2:30 and Luke 21:25 talk about, and I'm going to talk about the fires in California. Joel 2:30 says, "And I will show you wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before a great and awesome day of the Lord comes." And then Luke, we read, "There will be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on earth distress of nations and perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves, people fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world." And I want to talk a little bit about that, people fainting with fear, and I'm going to explain, I think I know what that is, and I'm going to explain why that is, and that's probably coming this week. So here's California. The wildfires are just raging like crazy. Joel says there'll be blood and fires and columns of smoke. And here you see fire tornadoes and another fire tornado right here. The sky is turned to darkness. These pictures are taken in the day. I've seen other photos where it gets very, very dark. The smoke is so heavy and so thick. The sun is going to be turned to darkness and the moon to blood. If you could even see the moon in here, it would definitely have a red tint just from the smoke and the fires that are rising in the sky. Now here's just a quick map of the major fires in the United States here, and this is just the beginning of the fire season. You see they're raging. They're going up into Oregon, Washington. I just saw some news broadcast where they're talking about in Oregon, 10% of the population had to leave their homes. Things are getting so bad there. Next, I want to talk a little bit about here is the Essene calendar. It's a little bit different. It's from this book. I just reread this book here, the Ancient Dead Sea Scroll Calendar by Ken Johnson. It's a good book. It talks about this particular day and the Essenes and how they calculated the day. And of course, they believe their method is correct, not the method that the Pharisees used over here, which is gives us September 18th, 19th, and 20th. What made it interesting to me was it's coming the day after the signing of the agreement. And this is the Abraham Accord. It's going to be signed in Washington, D.C., and it says, "He shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week." This is Daniel, and this Abraham Accord is what a lot of people believe, and it probably most likely is this covenant here that's going to be signed. And what I thought is interesting about this is if this is signed in Washington, D.C., let's say in the afternoon, say 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it'll be evening time. They're 7 hours ahead in Jerusalem, so it'll be nighttime in Jerusalem, or it'll be after sunset. And on the Jewish calendar, the day started at sunset. So if they sign this agreement here, it'll actually be sunset, or it'll be the next day. It'll be the 16th, technically, in Jerusalem. So if the Antichrist is already here, and when this covenant is signed, do we instantaneously have the beginning of the tribulation, the signing of the accord, and the rapture of the church? In other words, they sign this thing at the moment they sign this thing, because in Jerusalem, it's already the next day. It's the Feast of Trumpets, and that's the day that I believe the rapture is going to occur. Is this all going to be connected? Now that would really be wild, and that would be a really nice surprise. I'd like to be surprised with an early rapture versus a late rapture or no rapture, let's say, for another year. So that would be a pretty exciting surprise. Now, this whole week, regardless of whether it's here or through the 20th, the whole week we have, if it's a 2 day of trumpets, it's 2 days. It's basically the 16th and 17th, and then we roll into the 18th. So this whole week from the 16th through the 20th is really our big rapture window, our really heavy-duty watch time. After that, I mean, we're always going to be on high watch, but I mean, this is a period of time that I think everything is pointing to, and we're going to find out shortly in the next few days whether that's going to hold up. The other thing that's interesting too, it's signed in Washington, D.C., and if you watch some of my other videos, I've talked about Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is all set up here. They've got here's the reflecting pool. Here's the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument here. Reflecting pool is down here. You've got the Capitol building here. The whole of Washington, D.C. was set up by the Masons basically to bring the Antichrist into power. This is very much, there's typology in Egypt and in the Pharaoh. In Egypt, if you go to Egypt, you have the Luxor Temple and you have the city of Luxor. The whole city of Luxor was set up to deify the Pharaoh in Egypt. They would travel here and they would go through all these ceremonies, and then when he came out, he would be God. And basically, he is, a demon-possessed Pharaoh. And so there's a typology here, because the same thing's going to happen with the Antichrist. And Washington, D.C., and the Washington Monument here, and the whole city is structured exactly the same way. And the place is set up to instill or place the spirit of Satan into the Antichrist. So the Antichrist at some point in time will ultimately be Satan himself, and he's going to go into the temple and declare himself to be God. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about here is I want to talk about what the heavens look like on September 16th, which would be the Feast of Trumpets on the Essene calendar. What we see here is when you look to the east, always in September time period, you can see the constellation Leo rising in the east. And this was deliberately set up by God to be this way. It's the coming of the king, and the king is going to come. When Christ comes, he's going to come from the east. And so it's really interesting about this. You see the constellation Leo rising, and then we have the constellation Cancer, which according to Joseph Zeiss is the resting place of the saints, basically is heaven. And we see the planet Venus, and Jesus in the book of Revelation calls himself the bright and morning star. And again, this is in the morning at just right before sunrise in the east. You can see the sun is starting to glow here in the east. It's interesting that we have Venus, the Christ is going to come and get us, and he's going to take us to heaven. And his Venus is in the constellation of Cancer, the resting place. It's going to be in this constellation for the next 7, 8, 9 days. It'll be here. It'll be slowly moving towards the constellation of Leo. We have the moon, which in Jewish astronomy or Jewish thinking represents the Messiah. And we've got the moon on the 16th. It's on the 15th and the 16th. The moon is in the constellation of Leo, which I think is kind of interesting too. And the moon is a very tiny little sliver at this time. And then by the next day on the 17th, it'll be totally dark. And, it's kind of like Christ comes and he's, whether he comes on the 16th to get us or whether it's multiple days later. You have this imagery of Christ coming to get the church. That's what we see here. Cancer, the resting place, Venus. He comes to get the church, and then the moon goes dark. It's kind of a darkening of the world. This occurs in the morning, and that's where you want to see it because he's the bright morning star. It's the beginning of a new age, a period of new time for us. We will be taken out, and actually, if you watch my other videos, his millennial reign actually begins at the Feast of Trumpets and the Rapture of the church. I talk about why that is in another video. So then let's take a look then. Let's go out to Yom Kippur on September 12th, 2027. This is when Christ returns. He'll return with his bride to begin his millennial reign on earth. We should expect to see something here. Again, it's September. Whenever in September, the constellation Leo, Jesus the Lion, the tribe of Judah, his constellation is rising in the east. And we should see something there. If this is when he returns, one would expect that. And sure enough, what do we see? We see the planet Jupiter, the king planet. Jesus was, it's a straight planet with a wound. Jesus was wounded for our transgressions, and by his stripes we are healed. That's from Isaiah. They expect the Messiah to come from the east. And so we have verses that support that. Matthew 24:27, for as lightning comes out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. This is at his second coming. And then this is from Ezekiel. It's kind of paraphrased here. He will appear from the east. The sound of his coming will be like the roar of rushing waters. He will enter the temple through the eastern gateway. Now, once the temple is built, there's a gate facing the east, and he will enter that gate. And then also in the city of Jerusalem, it's believed he's going to also enter through the eastern gate. The eastern gate was cemented shut by Suleiman because they didn't want the Jewish Messiah to come. And so they cemented that gate shut and to keep him from coming through. But again, he's going to supernaturally enter through the eastern gate, and then he will also enter the temple through the eastern gateway. So it's pretty cool. I mean, everything is just really, really pointing to this week. And if we go out 7 years to Yom Kippur, this is when he's supposed to return. We're seeing things that we should see. We don't see an empty constellation here. We see the planet Jupiter. So right now it's like all systems go for Rapture launch this week. Now I want to talk a little bit about this verse here where Jesus says, people will be fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world. And I want to tell you what I think is going to cause the fear and the foreboding coming in the world. It's going to be the rapture of the church. Think about this for a minute. When the rapture of the church occurs, there are going to be millions upon millions of people who are going to be missing. People are going to disappear right in front of other people. You're going to have planes, you're going to have cars crashing. You're going to have people passing out, fainting when they see this thing. It's going to freak them out beyond anything. People, I guarantee you, people will be dying of heart attacks. And then when the children, if Christ raptures all the children under a certain age, I said that's going to put an intense fear in the people, a fear that they have never, ever experienced ever. The planet is going to come to a halt. Markets they're all going to crash, and it's going to take the planet down. And when we go up, they are going to come down. The fallen angels, they're going to appear, and they're going to explain just what happens. You have this whole alien phenomenon. You have the United States has done what we call soft disclosure with the F-18 pilot and all the video that they're showing from the aircraft of UFOs that they were tracking. And they were tracking these UFOs for like over a month. They were following this carrier group. And so soft disclosure has been occurring. And then Hollywood's been conditioning and preparing for the world for this. I just went and rewatched both Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. And in both of these movies, they have a rapture type scene in the movie. We can watch it right here. You can see All the people are they're just disappearing. This guy's like, what in the heck is going on here? Well, Thanos, he needs to bring balance back to the universe, and he just believes that the universe is overpopulated by 50%. So he takes out 50% of humanity and 50% of all the other alien type creatures all over the universe. And so this is kind of a rapture event. People they've seen this in movies, they've seen it in other movies, so they're ready and they're expecting this to happen. And so when it happens, it's not going to be as big a surprise as you think. At the same time, though, it's going to rattle everyone to the core, because it's like, who in the heck has the power to do something like this? Next, I just want to read from 1 Thessalonians 5, 1-5. Now concerning the times and the season, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you. For you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. That's just really amazing. While there's peace and security, here's the high watch week, and this is the week in which they're going to sign this peace and security agreement. That just blows me away, that the timing of everything seems absolutely perfect for this week, for everything that we're looking for and what we're watching. But you are not in darkness, brothers, for that day to surprise you like a thief. For you are all children of the light, children of the day. We are not of the night or of the darkness. Now he says, we're not in darkness for that day to surprise us like a thief. And as long as you're watching, we'll never be surprised like a thief. And most of the people watching this channel, we're all just watchers, and we want to see what's happening. And when you're watching, as a watchman, you see different things. And so you want to kind of report on what you see. You may be right and you may be wrong, but if you keep watching, sooner or later over time, you're going to be right. And right now, this is a chart. If you've looked at my videos, this is kind of my latest one I've gotten here. And we're really in this time slot right now, right here. We're kind of coming up on what I believe is going to be the rapture of the church. We have this window of opportunity here. I really think it's this week. I mean, we have a window, I think, until 12/14, but after that, everything I've kind of laid out here kind of falls apart. And realistically, I really believe it's this week. Everything is pointing to this week. And if this really is the time of the rapture, that's kind of what we should see. I don't see a whole lot of other options. It can happen after this. Again, God is in control of everything. I mean, we could be for another 1, 2, 3 years, but I don't think anybody out there who's watching at the intensity level and with the attention that we're doing to what's going on in the world thinks we have that much time. So it's really pointing to now. I just can't imagine being here, let's say, through 5/26/21. That would be through May. The world is just coming apart. We're basically on the Titanic. We have hit the iceberg and the ship has begun to sink. Now, the smart people like us, we know the ship is sinking and we're getting ready. We know we need to get into the lifeboats. There's other people, when the actual Titanic got hit and they were told to abandon ship and head for the lifeboats, they just didn't believe it. They couldn't comprehend that the end was the ship was going to sink. The ship was supposed to be impossible to sink, so they just kind of ignored things to their own peril. And that's kind of the situation we're in right now. Even the Christian church, a lot of Christians don't believe that we're in this time. They just can't believe. They got too many. They're either just too attached to this world, or sometimes you have friends and relatives that need to be saved, and you're just like, man, we need more time. They're not saved yet. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't believe now is the time, but everything that's going on in the world is pointing to it. Everything here is pointing to it. And right now, I personally believe this is the time. The rapture is kind of a really unusual event. It's very hard for part of your mind or part of you to believe even something like a rapture event can occur. But if you studied your Bible, we know this is true. We know Christ is true. We know the Bible is true. Even though we've never seen or experienced a rapture or somebody resurrecting from the dead, we take it by faith that this is going to occur. And so then we watch, and that's exactly what's happening. And we're going to find out very shortly here. And if not, if we're still here, after this period of time, we'll just keep watching, because God is in control and it's all going to work out the way he wants. As long as we keep watching, it won't come to us like a thief in the night. And that's exactly what we're going to do if we're still here. But we probably need to be prepared for some very hard times, because after the election, I don't know if when that election occurs, I don't know if people will acknowledge who the winner is. If Trump wins, I don't know if the left is going to accept that. And if the other side wins, I don't know if we'll accept it, because they're going to come after your gun. I mean, it's it's a lose-lose situation here. Whoever wins this next election, it just looks like an unfathomable disaster is coming on us. So that being said, though, it looks like our Messiah is coming for us this week. And for those of you who are not followers of Jesus Christ, now would probably be a really good time to do that. It's pretty simple. Here's the ABCs of salvation. Admit that you're a sinner in need of a Savior. Believe in the finished redemptive work of Jesus Christ on the cross alone for the remission of all your sins. Call in the name of the Lord. All who call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. And then when you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart man believes and is justified, with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. And then, for it is by grace you are saved through faith. It is not of your own doing. It is a free gift of God, not by works, lest any man should boast. So that's the salvation message. It's pretty simple. So if you're watching this and this event has occurred, be steadfast, accept Christ now, and, be prepared. The tribulation is going to be very, very hard for Christians. And some people make it through, but the majority of people do not. So, but you will have eternal salvation, and that's really the most important thing. You do not want to end up in the fires of hell for eternity, separated from God. That's not where you want to be. So anyhow, thanks if you watched it this far, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. Hopefully by the end of this week. That would be incredibly exciting. This is probably it's just unbelievable what's going together. It's just hard to believe we're actually here. So we'll see what happens. Amen. Maranatha, come Lord Jesus, and we'll see you.
Now, do you see what I mean? It's both Brenda and George and that vision, that ding-ding going on in my head, Rosh Hashanah, are sort of clarifying to me, if nobody else, that things are really high for around about the 27th, 28th, which is the moved Rosh Hashanah. And then I think of what Brenda said was 5 days to hand things over. That's going on in my mind now, and I am going to inquire tonight of the Lord, is that true? Do it for me. Do it with me. Have your quiet time and ask. And in the depths of your sleep is when the communication level comes in your brain. I know it sounds wacky, but neuroscientists would agree. And by the way, scientists, not Christians, that we are on different brainwave levels throughout the course of the day. So just try it for me. And get hold of me at petersplace101@gmail.com if you get an answer. But I'm pinning my hopes, not everybody else's hopes. Please decide for yourselves. I always say that. But do join us on Discord, guys. Because it's the only place I can send you. I don't know what churches are in your area. I don't know what's going on in your life. It's the only place we can go. But Discord also brings into mind is, why is it growing so fast? It is now at 2,145 brothers and sisters in there. That is incredible. That's growing in a couple of months. It's so why? Now, if Brenda's right about 5 days of handing over, are we to hand something over? Go and watch Brenda's as well. There's a previous thing of mine, and obviously go to her channel and go to the Return of the King channel for this one, who are getting together. I will leave a link in the description. There's a link in the description for Discord. Please come and join us as well. And I hope to see you all soon, but I really want to go home because we got a picnic ordered and it's getting bigger. So all I can leave you with is, may God bless you, keep you, make his face to shine upon you, and be gracious to you this day and always. God bless.